Okay, folks, so we will, let's jump right in. As background, so on the screen, as you see, Nick Pringer, founder and CEO of Pringer Solutions Group, and AskGenius, joined by Leslie. And Leslie, where are you dialing in from today?
Detroit, Michigan.
Excellent. Leslie is one of our fantastic fundraising consultants. She's been doing this for a long time, and she's fantastic. She's worked in universities, capital campaign consulting firms, now with PSG running annual appeals for large multi-million-dollar clients. So we're excited for her to be with us today to talk about year-end matching gift challenges, a topic that I know is near and dear to a lot of folks because, Leslie, I got emails from at least 5 people who are saying, Nick, we're signed up. Can you send me the templates and letters early? I'm working on this right as we speak. So I know this is something near and dear to everyone. Some background on who we are, if you haven't attended any of our webinars before. Pringer Solutions Group, we are a consulting firm. We're 15 people. Those people have worked for unbelievable organizations all across the country doing fundraising. So we offer fundraising consulting. We run annual appeals. Our niche is large Catholic dioceses. That's typically who our consulting side works with. We also do some outsourced Razor's Edge database administration and some fundraising automation, which is the topic that we'll really get into in 2023. We're going to blow your minds with everything that you can do automating some of those back-end processes and emails to your donor. We also have this amazing tool called AskGenius, which is something that we built as a consulting firm to help us run really high-performing annual appeals. We can talk about that a little bit later. And one thing that we've committed to do from the start. So if you're joining our webinar, you've probably been a part of a lot of them leading up to this. We've committed to building in public. So as we run these large $2, $5, $10, $20 million annual appeals for clients, we do a lot of testing, we run a lot of experiments, and we learn a great deal. And every time we learn something new, we host a webinar about it, which is probably really annoying for all of our employees, Leslie, that you just get done, doing your day job, and then it's like, let's turn it into a webinar. Things that we've done in the past. We've talked about donor personas. We've talked about how to design the world's greatest pledge card. That one's very popular. And if you want links to any of these, we can send them to you. Great fundraising letter, how to write the world's greatest fundraising letter. That might have been the biggest one we've ever done. So feel free, we've got spots where you can download those templates. How to use social media for fundraising, direct mail fundraising strategies using email. Last week, I believe we did one on 9 proven strategies for year-end giving appeals, very topical. So this is what we do. We want to, for free, offer as much advice and free resources and help to folks that are professional fundraisers and want advice, want to see the results of our experiments. If you find any of these webinars helpful, you can go to our site, AskGenius.com, sign up for our newsletter. It's not a weekly thing. It's roughly monthly. Anytime we run an experiment and we really learn something interesting or we have something to say, we shoot out an email to folks. We let you know, here's the latest experiments. Here's what we've got coming up for webinars. So you can head there. My friend Mitch can drop that in the chat. So you have a link to donate or link to donate. You can tell them a fundraiser, Leslie. You can have a link to sign up to our e-newsletter. Okay, that's where you hear about all of our upcoming webinars. Final item, some housekeeping. Yes, this is being recorded. Yes, we will send you the slides and the recording right after the webinar. Yes, we will send you a link to download the sample letters and emails and materials we put together. And if you have any questions as we go through, I think today's gonna be kind of a quick one, maybe 20, 25 minutes. If you have any questions, hit the Q&A button on your screen and we will be sure to answer your questions. If you put your questions into the chat, a lot of the times we lose track of them. So use that Q&A button to make sure that we can see them. All right, Leslie, did I miss anything?
I don't think so. I think we got.
I think those intro slides get longer and longer. Every webinar we do, we're like, oh man, we got to remind them about this and this and this.
We might need to start highlighting the highlights on the webinars. So we're getting too many.
We do. We have too many on one screen. I'm breaking the cardinal rule of presentations is always work. Okay, so let's give the people what they want. How do we run a matching gift challenge? We're going to walk through our best advice in terms of timeline, structure, and materials. As I mentioned, we've designed some materials for you that you can use and customize. Let's start with this. Leslie, I'm going to share the biggest secret in fundraising with folks right now. It's a truth bomb. So here it is, matching gift challenges, big old truth bomb. That matching gift challenge that you're hearing about, it's going to come in whether you meet the challenge or not. So every time you get a piece of mail that says last chance to act, a donor is going to match this, or if we hit X amount, that large gift is probably coming in no matter what. Leslie, you've been fundraising for as long as I have for a lot of different areas. Have you ever seen an instance where a nonprofit has promoted a matching gift challenge where that original gift didn't come in?
I have not, and that was one of my favorite things to learn in my first year out of the gates, is that is coming either way. It's very exciting, and it's nice to know you can count on that, and it's an opportunity to build a relationship with the donor instead.
It's that's exactly right. And I'm you know what, there might be, I'd be curious actually, maybe in the chat, if somebody has had this happen where a donor really did have a challenge that wasn't met. But usually what happens is it's the development office that's driving the challenge, right? A donor might make a gift to an organization, and then it's the development office that says, hey, can we use that gift to help inspire others? And we're going to get to that in a bit. But I just wanted to clear the air for everybody that if you're new to development, I wouldn't be surprised if you think that this sort of thing just happens, right? You know, a donor comes in and with a challenge opportunity, your job is to facilitate it. That is not how it works, right? Your job is almost always to bring this up to the donor, ask them if you can use the gift in a certain way. And the reason we want to do that, the reason matching gift challenges exist, because really it's two gifts in one. And here's what I mean by that. If I am in charge of a high school, right, or a small college, the first gift is the money itself, right? Let's say a donor is willing to do $100,000, you know, in a matching gift challenge. That $100,000 is gift number one. Gift number two, which is even more valuable to me as a professional fundraiser, is a couple things. One, I get to build the relationship with that matching gift donor. It's a chance for us to talk more often, for them to take ownership in what it is that we're doing and help us, you know, expand our database. It's to inspire gifts of a specific kind or amount, and we're going to get into that. It might help me motivate new donors. It gives me an excuse to reach out to new donors. And it helps me encourage donors to give in a different way. Maybe I want to encourage online giving, or I want to encourage, you know, QCDs or stock gifts or something like that. So every matching gift challenge is two gifts. It's the initial gift itself, which is great, but more important than that is that it's the impetus and the excuse that it gives you to reach out, you know, and direct new donor behavior. So let's start at the very top. So Leslie, let's talk about how it works. Step one, you got to find your major gift donor, right? Leslie, do you know how old the average donor is in the United States?
I do. The donor is 68.
That is exactly right. The average major gift donor is 68. They will be 68 next year. They were 68 10 years ago. That is just the fundraising world we live in. So let's shatter the myth that there are a whole bunch of young donors out there. Of course, there's exceptions that prove the rule.
We do our best, but
we do our best. We work hard. And yes, there are young donors, but they're not your major donors. Typically, it's okay. Embrace the fact that the typical major donor is about 68 years old. That is the pattern of giving that we live in. So the way that a matching gift challenge works is pretty complicated. You have a major gift donor who offers to match other gifts that come in. We will match gifts that come in that meet certain criteria, whether it's all the gifts by a certain date or all the gifts above a certain amount. We're going to talk about the different strategies. The good thing about this, so you have your major donor. By doing it this way, they feel like this. They feel like a complete superhero. Not only are they making a gift, they know that they're helping you in two ways: the gift itself, and then helping you do your job as a fundraising professional. It makes your development director feel like this, because you have those two gifts. You've got your major gift, and then you've got a reason to reach out to other donors, which we all know is the most important thing in fundraising, is having that good, honest reason to reach out and talk to somebody. So how do we find that challenge donor? I'll ask you about this, Leslie. You've got good experience here. What are we looking for? So if I'm, again, I'm a small college development director or a high school, I want to run a major gift matching gift challenge. What am I looking for? Walk me through it.
Yep. So I think the first two kind of go hand in hand. So you've been working with these major donors all year. You're hoping that they can get that major gift in by the end of the year, so it's on your books for 2022. So this is a perfect opportunity to go back to them and say, this is why I'm reaching out to you today, kind of create that sense of urgency with them. They might always make a big year-end gift, or it's somebody that you've been working with that you've been needing a reason to go back to them. The other type of donor you have here is somebody who's already made a big gift. Maybe it was 6 months ago. But you want to use that gift to motivate others and to challenge others to participate by the end of the year. So you've kind of got two different groups here.
And is that okay to do, Leslie? I mean, so if I'm sitting there and we had the Smith family, they gave $100,000 back in June. Is that okay to go back to them and say, hey, can we use this as a challenge?
Yep, absolutely.
Awesome. And
many times.
it probably happens way more often than people think, right?
Yep. And I think that goes back to kind of what you said at the beginning, that, you know, that challenge gift is coming in one way or another. So if it's already been made, that's okay too.
Yes. I racked my brain preparing for this to think of any time when the donor, you know, had driven that, or, I mean, almost every time I can think of it, it wasn't just we went and asked a major donor to do this. Almost every time it was a donor that had already made the gift, and then we came back and said, can we use it in this way? So that is a very typical approach.
Yeah, and in my experience, donors are always really excited to do that. They want their gift to have a greater impact, and it's not just supporting the mission of your organization, but it's motivating others to support the mission as well.
Yes, the only time, I mean, I've never seen a donor turn it down when that's the case. Some of them do want to remain anonymous, so it just depends on the persona of the donor, right? So some of them say, yes, you can use my name. Others say, I want to be anonymous, but they're almost always excited, right? They're not giving you a major gift because they don't want you to succeed, and this is the way that their gift can help you succeed even more. That's wonderful. So bonus points here, obviously, if the donor is okay with you using their name, if they're known and well respected, that does help you a little bit. Not important at all. Right? Sorry, I don't mean it not important. It's helpful. I mean, it's not a deal.
Not necessary. Yep.
Yeah,
not necessary. I do think it is great when you can tell the story of the donor. So if they are willing to share their name, I think it's always great to share their story about why they're so committed to your organization. So that's been something we've done really successfully in the past.
Love it. Okay. So that's the qualities you look for. Everybody that's on this line can think of somebody either that's made a gift, or my favorite is your example number one. If I'm working at a school and I've got a donor that I know is capable of making a large gift, this can be my excuse to go close that gift, right? To go approach the Smith family or the Gonzalez family and say, hey, would you consider $25,000 or $50,000? Here's what I want to do. I'm always looking for that excuse to go talk to them, right? It gives me a reason to call on them without just saying, hey, you know, would you give? Here's why. I've got something exciting. Okay, so approaching the challenge donor, Leslie, what's the best way? How should you approach them? That age-old question: do you send a letter? Do you do a phone call? What's the cadence?
I hate to be that person, but it kind of depends on your relationship with the donor. So I think if you have a very personal relationship with them, it totally makes sense to start with a phone call or an informal email. Some donors, if you're still building that relationship, I think it's better to start with a letter. So they know what's coming and they're not caught off guard by that call. So yep. I hate to say it depends, but it depends.
I think it's fair. It's the honest answer in this point. In this case, it depends. So what I'm hearing is the default would be maybe start with a letter, email first, and then a call to like follow up on it. But you can skip that if you know the donor well enough that you can just go right to the phone.
Yeah, that's how I approach it.
And we have template email. Template letter to the major donor asking about this, template email, template phone script. Again, just trying to make everybody on the line here, make your lives a little bit easier. We will send you the links to those after the webinar. Okay, so we've got the major donor being a loose term. Could be $5,000, could be $5 million, depending on what organization you're at. How do we communicate it with the world? So once we've secured them, here's the world's simplest timeline, looking at it from the lens of you want to do this year. If you're on this webinar, you're looking at getting this done before the end of the year. If you're watching this webinar, we're recording it on November 2nd. Oh my goodness, Leslie, the year is like over. What are we doing?
I don't know.
I'm
not sure what day it is. So
I did just read that we've got daylight savings coming up this weekend,
which is really fun for all of us that have young children. So
that's great.
If you don't have young children, enjoy your extra hour of sleep.
That's right. Yeah. Okay, so the timeline. Here you are today. First week of November. You're attending this webinar, Matching Gift Challenges. Great. Let's get started. What I would do if I were you, by next week, talk to your major donor. You know, ask for that challenge gift, or approach somebody who's already made a gift. Ask if you can use it in this new way. Then use the final 2 weeks, so the week of November 14th and 21st. We're going to sneak Thanksgiving in there somewhere. Write your letters the week of November 14th, and all of your stuff. Spend a week creating. Put it in put it on a shelf somewhere, don't look at it. The following week, come back, proof it, finalize it, get everything ready to go. You can mail your initial stuff. Your initial wave usually starts with a letter, and we'll talk about that the week of November 28th. And then that gives you, Leslie, that whole month of December to do follow-up, right? So it's like the initial push, as we all know as fundraisers, get letter one out the door, get, everything, neat and tidy and packaged up. And then you can spend a month doing your follow-up. We have some email advice on what that looks like. That takes place in the month of December. And then don't forget to celebrate and communicate your success. So when you hit that challenge at the end of December, if it is timed with the end of the year, make sure we celebrate that and communicate it. Simple timeline, yours will change. If you are doing a full blitz multi-channel, this is probably what you're looking at. We have a lot of clients that just want to do an email focus, so they're not even going to send out a letter. They're just going to do this as sort of a small little email initiative. That's great. Your calendar gets a little bit more condensed. Okay, striking the right tone. One slide on do's and don'ts here that from folks who have run a whole lot of these. Do be positive I'm talking about your messaging to potential donors. Do credit the donor as the reason you're reaching out. There's nothing better than getting to write a letter and saying, hey, the reason I'm reaching out today is because you're terrific and this amazing thing just happened. So the impetus for me writing to you is because of this wonderful donor. Be heartfelt, be appreciative, and make sure to segment your donors. We're going to have a slide on that in a minute. Don't. There's only one don't. Don't try to guilt people into giving. Leslie, in your illustrious career of fundraising, has it ever worked?
It has not. It has backfired. It has not worked. So, and I think that is true when I receive a donor letter too. I'm going to give to one that makes me feel good, not one that makes me feel guilty. So
yes.
I think all of us can probably echo that.
Avoid language like we haven't heard from you, or even like we miss you, or blah blah. Anything. And this doesn't happen really in the professional fundraiser space. We see it a lot in like churches, like with some smaller church clients that you have the folks who are giving all the time, and they're looking at the folks who maybe aren't giving as fulsomely, and they really want to write that letter that says, hey, you got to carry your weight. I know it feels good to write it. It never works. So just skip it. People want to give to a success. They want to give to something that makes them feel good, that makes them feel like a hero. We've got entire webinars about how to write that perfect donor fundraising letter. So if you want that, let us know in the chat. We can get you the link. Okay. So let's talk about the vehicles. Let's start with direct mail. The important thing for everybody to remember, as we cover in many of our webinars, direct mail is still the king of fundraising. And we, PSG, are a digital fundraising firm, right? So we're multi-channel. We help run really comprehensive, smart, modern fundraising campaigns. We love digital technology. We love all the new tools. We are great at it. With that said, direct mail is still king. It is where the majority of your gifts are going to come in, are from folks who receive your letter, who read it, and fill out a pledge card, right? About half who get the letter will go online to make a gift, but they still get that letter, and that is still king. I share that just to manage your expectations. If you're running a matching gift challenge, if you have a letter component to start it off, you will raise far more than if you just do an email campaign. And if you're okay with that, that's fine. We run a lot of just email only campaigns, but just set your expectations accordingly. To help illustrate this, we're going to go with our favorite chili cheese dog analogy that we talk about way too much.
It's not fair that this is my lunchtime, by the way.
I know. Time zone, folks. This reminds me of. I'll skip it. There's a great comedy sketch about a guy that skips lunch. Okay, direct mail. Direct mail is both your hot dog and the bun. Your online donation page is a condiment only, right? It's the mustard. This is helping you put in perspective where you should put your time and energy. Your email campaign is the relish. Your social media is the onions. So direct mail is the core of it, right? It is the substance of the meal. You would never sit down just to have mustard for lunch, right? That's just, it's nice to have. It's an add-on, but it's not going to be the core main element. All right. So let's talk about the letter itself. We have a great sample. Again, we will email you the links where you can watch this recording, download the slides, download the sample. The main thing that's important in the letter, number one, heartfelt, personal, written by a real person to a real person. When your donor or potential donor reads your letter, they should nod their heads. If, Leslie, you get a piece of direct mail and you open it up and you're looking at it and you start nodding your head, I know that we've got you. I know that we've hit the mark. we're resonating, you're probably going to make a gift, because that's the number one goal of the letter, is to connect. If we see one mistake from clients or potential clients, it's overly formal letters, really high prose, technical, full of stats. That's not what works in fundraising. What works is telling a story and being a real person. Your letter should be segmented to fit the donor. If I'm running a year-end match, I'm looking at these four. Somebody who typically gives at this time of year, and I can tell them that. I know that you typically give this time of year. Somebody who already gave this year, and I can segment my messaging to say, thank you so much for your gift. You've been incredible this year. Here's an opportunity we have at the end of the year. If you'd like to give again, here's how we can double the impact. If they're a live bunch or side bunch, if you're a professional fundraiser, you know what we're talking about there. And then non-donors. So at a minimum, you've got 4 segments of the letter. We actually have that broken out in the template that we're providing to you. So look for that by the end of today. Always the usual caution here. And Leslie, you know what I'm going to say. New donor versus renewal. Manage expectations. If someone has never given to your organization before, your appeal to them, typically about 0.5% is what you'll see for a response. If someone has given before, you'll hit anywhere from 40 to 70%, depending on the size of your audience. So I'm not telling you to never approach new donors. I'm telling you that approaching new donors is an entirely different focus. Typically, it costs more to acquire new donors. So make sure that you're managing your expectations and your boss's expectations. We've worked with so many organizations where there's a board and the board says, oh, we've got this great match and gift challenge. We should get in thousands of new donors. It's hard work getting in new donors, right? Yes, it's important to do, but just keep that in perspective. If you are only focused on raising the money that you need to carry out your mission, you should focus on the folks that have already given this year. Okay. Do not stop yourself. Do not make a decision for them and say, oh, they've already given. That is your job. They're giving for a reason, and they will gladly give again if there's something compelling. Okay. What else should we talk about? Email. So we talked about direct mail, what the letter should look like. We've got a sample for you to download. From email, the standpoint where I take this from, it's a supplement to the direct mail. We have a sample that you can look at. The important thing to remember about email, number one, is the same. It's got to be written by a real person. Do not send an email from a donorcommunications@college.org or something like that. It has to come from a real person. It's okay if it comes from the development director. It doesn't have to come from your university president. That's not realistic. It is realistic that someone in the development office would be emailing and saying, hey, would you consider a year-end gift? Inbox permission. We talk about this. We have an entire one of our best webinars we ever did is talk about how often you should email your donors. We talk about the 8-to-1 rule. The short version of the 8-to-1 rule is you need to email your donors 8 times, telling them how great they are or offering them something of value, sharing a good story. 8 times a heartfelt touch for every 1 time that you ask for something. So if you're looking at your calendar and you have not emailed your donors 8 times before you're going to launch this matching gift challenge, get some good heartfelt emails out the door, right? It works. That's what gives you permission to get into that donor's inbox, right, where they can then consider making a gift. And then clearly have a link to donate. If you're going to send an email, link it, give them a clear call to action. Here's a way to click and donate online. Okay. What the email, the cadence of the emails. Number one, you're sending out the direct mail, and then maybe you're using informed delivery, which we did a webinar on 2 weeks ago. So you get a little alert from the post office of when people open your email, when your direct mail lands. Then you can time your email to go out alongside it. Number one is, oh my gosh, this is such an incredible opportunity. Email number 2 is, here's a progress update. You can have a big impact if you give. Maybe that's when you first start having a little thermometer in there to show where we're at on our way to meeting this challenge. Email 3 is, you as a development director are overwhelmed by the support. It's incredible what we've seen. I've been emailing you about this. Thank you so much. We have the best donors in the whole world. We're making a huge impact. Thank you again. If you have a chance and you haven't yet given, here's a link to give. And then email 4 is, you did it. Fireworks going off, include some emojis, maybe some gifts in your email. That's the long and short of it, right? A good heartfelt letter, 4 emails, bang, 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 kind of updating folks on where we are. I would also recommend multi-channel. So social media. Leslie, what's the goal of social media? Do people click and donate from social media?
They do not, but it brings awareness to what you're doing and reminds them. So they might see if they're scrolling Instagram, scrolling Facebook, they see this message and they say, oh, that reminds me, I got that letter. It's sitting on my counter at home. I'm going to go make a gift. So people aren't making a gift because of your social media, but it will remind them of what you're doing.
Yep, well said. And it's just a drumbeat to have out there. Any graphic designer can whip up, 15 to 20 different posts that you can put up and just keep, making the soil a little bit more fertile for your direct mail. The tone of those will change based on your organization. If they're fun and playful, if it's really focused on the Advent or Christmas season, if you're focused on the end of the year, that's entirely up to you. But it is important. Again, I spend like we spend a lot of our webinars, Leslie, managing expectations, right? It's here's all the great stuff to do, but just be aware, like direct mail is still king. Yes, people will donate through email links. No, they will not click on a social media post to donate, but it will help direct them and remind them to that fundraising letter that they got. If you're an organization that does handouts here, in terms of communicating a matching gift challenge, really what I'm thinking of here is like churches that have bulletins and physical paper things that they hand out. We've talked about this in the past about, I think in our last webinar about year-end giving. It's always helpful to have a FYI. Here's how, a fact sheet about year-end giving. Our office hours are X. Don't forget to stop by and make a gift. If you're doing a matching gift challenge, don't overthink it. Just put a giant sticker on there that says, hey, we have a matching gift challenge. Don't cover up all the text like I have on the screen. Put it up in a corner, but let people know, hey, we have this great challenge opportunity. Easy, simple, drop in your bulletin. Again, you won't always inspire somebody who's not a giver to give, but you will help remind a lot of people who do make year-end gifts. Oh, that's right, I should make my gift and maybe I'll give a little bit more this year because we've got this great matching gift challenge. What's also important in all of this, something that we are very passionate about, is making sure that you ask for the right amount. And here what we're talking about are ask strings. Leslie, we've heard these called a lot of different things too, right? So it's ask strings, it's what? Bump tables.
Gift arrays.
Yes, gift arrays, ask ladders, ask amounts. But we can never agree on what they're called. We call them ask strings. Here's what we know, and this, by the way, is a terrible version of a pledge card. I know, Leslie.
Please don't put your credit card on your pledge card.
Do not ask for a credit card on your pledge card. I saw Leslie cringe visibly when I put this on the screen because this is not a good-looking pledge card by any means. Shockingly, we have an entire webinar on how to design a pledge card, what works the best. Please make sure to download that template if you haven't yet, completely free of charge. We want people to use better pledge cards because you will raise more money. But here's what we're talking about. Those little check boxes at the top. You will raise more money if you personalize those versus if you send a one-size-fits-all. So we ran a test for a couple different clients, and where we would send everybody the same pledge card with a standard amount, right? Would you donate $100, $150, all the way up to $500? And then we would take the other half of their list and we would personalize those amounts. And in many cases, the asks would be lower than $100. And in some cases, they'd be higher, but we would do it based on what we knew about the donor's giving history, wealth research, what zip code they're in. So it's moving from a world where your fundraising appeal is everybody gets the same looking pledge card to one where if you're mailing out to 1,000 people, you might have 500 different sets of ask strings based on what we know about the donor. What we found, typical every one-size-fits-all fundraising appeal, you'll raise about 4.5% increase, your donors will increase their gift about 4.5%. If you really personalize those ask amounts, that's why we're so passionate about this. On average, we're seeing a 29% increase in giving. It really does matter when you appeal to your donors if you're putting an ask amount in front of them that is right for them. For some donors, that ask amount might be $500. For some, it might be $25. But if you hit that sweet spot where it's not too low and it's not too high, which is just as important, you will raise more money. We've proven it time and time again. So much so that we've built a little tool that can help you do it. It's called AskGenius. The way it works, we built it for ourselves to run our consulting practice because we're working with clients that have huge donor files, and we needed an easy way to ingest all of that giving history and wealth research and all that information and let our clients set the ask amounts, and they can do it. We have built-in algorithms. We have a really aggressive one called Swing for the Fences. We have one called the Secret Sauce, which is what we use. So it's just a tool you can use to set ask amounts for your appeal. I'm going to do a poll and then we'll move on. If you want to learn more about AskGenius, I think somebody already in the chat said, hey, yeah, send me a link to that tool. Let us know. What will happen is if you want to learn more about AskGenius, just answer the poll and then we'll have Andrew Mankey can follow up with you and send you whatever information you need. If you're already raising too much money and you don't want any help personalizing ask strings, that's perfectly fine as well. We won't hammer you with it. We will keep inviting you to our webinars and we're building in public. But this is a little clever tool that a lot of people have had good success with. So I'll leave that up there for about another 10 seconds. If you want to know more about AskGenius, let us know and we will follow up with you on that. Okay, thank you. So closing it out, couple big picture things that I think are important. So Leslie, when we talk about matching gift challenge, I think you and I are always thinking of a 1-for-1 match, right? Like some donor said, if you give $1, we'll give $1. But there's actually a lot more fun ways that you can do this that might actually help your organization. So we're going to walk through those right now. So the first strategy is a straight up dollar for dollar match. And it looks something like this. Hey, everybody, I have great news. We have a donor who will match all gifts dollar for dollar, up to $100,000. Simple, effective, tried and true. It's like the base level strategy. Now let's talk about more advanced strategies. And if you have questions on these, make sure to hit your Q&A button and we can talk through anything that you want to talk through. This is one that I like quite a bit, where you're setting a floor for gifts. What this looks like is we have a donor who will match all gifts above a certain level, above $1,000. Now that amount, don't just settle on 1,000. Look at your giving history, look at your database, and find out what level are people typically giving at, and then pick a level that's just above that. If you get a lot of $100 gifts at the end of the year, set your floor at $250. The goal of this match will be to lift people up from that typical $100 gift to give maybe $250. If you have a larger group, you might put it at $1,000. If you have some major donors, so this is moving into larger nonprofits, think, again, large private high school, maybe a small college or university, you could do a match that says, hey, we have a donor that said, if I can find 10 families to donate $20,000, they'll match every one of them. That is a dream come true for any major gift officer at the end of the year. I mean, Leslie, what would we do? We would kill for this, right? It's November and you've got a portfolio and you got this.
Yeah, I'm still waiting for this. So if anybody knows anyone, I'm all ears.
And
my phone is open.
That's right. This happens a lot in capital campaigns too, to help spur this. If you're going this route, you can skip all of the letters that go out and the email and the social media, skip all of that. And it's just phone calls, right? So pick 30 potential donors and go to those families and say, hey, if we can get 10 families to do this, we've got a match. That's really impactful, very specialized, to accomplish a specific need, but we think it's a great strategy. The third way is if you want to encourage specific behavior. Okay, so here it's not just a free-for-all dollar for dollar match. Maybe the donor says, we will match all online gifts. If you want to encourage people to give online, which you should, because they give more, because they're more likely to make recurring gifts, because you get better information like email addresses, don't be afraid to have your match be tied to a certain thing like giving online. I've seen it done where the donor will match all first-time gifts. Just be aware you will not get a ton, right? This is a good, if your only goal is to get new people in the door and not to raise a lot of money, this is a good one. It can help you get out there and get new gifts in the door. But just be aware, it won't raise you a ton of money. So make sure this is one of those cases where the donor is going to make the gift regardless. If you have a donor that really is tied to you getting new donors in the door, that's a tough conversation. Donor will match all QCD. So it used to be called IRA charitable rollovers. Now they're qualified charitable distributions. This is where folks that are over 72 and a half, I think now. Sorry, if you're over
70 and a half.
70 and a half, they have to start 70 and a half. They can use this and get the tax benefits. At 72, they have to start taking the distributions. So this appeals to a very narrow audience, again, of elderly folks who are your best donors, who might have to take, are being required to take money out of the retirement account that they don't need. They would rather donate that money so that they don't pay income tax on the distribution. You can run a match and gift challenge to encourage that behavior. One that I love a lot, Leslie, I wish I would have thought of this back when you and I were running so many capital campaigns.
So do I.
I saw it recently. We had a client who had a lot of outstanding pledges. They ran a big $50 million capital campaign. They get into year 2 or 3, and there's a lot of folks who still owe on their pledge, right? Either they never made a gift or they paid half of it and it kind of fell off. I love the idea of going to them and saying, hey, we have a donor who will match anybody that pays off their pledge. That would be powerful, because those are folks that have already made the pledge. They care about your organization. It's just spurring that behavior. Do you like that idea?
I do. I love it.
Yeah,
I love it. I want to go back in time and do this a couple times.
I know. Oh man, our pledge redemption numbers would be through the roof if we would have thought
Exactly.
of it back then. I just love it. And I saw this done at a church where it wasn't really going after the delinquent donors. It was going after the folks, encouraging them to pay it off early, because a lot of people do. A lot of people make 3 or 5 year pledges, and then they get to December of year 1 or year 2, and they, it's a real value to the organization if they pay it off early. Less money they have to finance if they're doing a big building project. So don't be afraid to get creative and use this strategy. And with that, that was a whirlwind tour. I promised 25 minutes, and I think I came close because I had a lot of intro. I would love to get to any Q&A, any questions that people have for us. Please write it in the Q&A box. Leslie, did you see anything in there as I've been talking that caught your attention that we should tackle?
Yes, we had a good one. Lindsay asked us if it matters what the original gift was to. So if the donor made a gift to a building campaign or something specific, could we still use that as a match towards operating funds or something like that?
Right. So I'll answer, and then I want you to answer as well. And I'm guessing we'll probably match up. I mean, it's all about donor intent. So if a donor gave to a specific thing like tennis courts, right, then you want to go and talk to them and make sure that whatever you do aligns with their intent. That's where I would start. I've almost always found donors to be agreeable. Like, they want the development office to come back to them and recommend stuff like this. Leslie, your thoughts?
Yep, absolutely. I think it depends on what it is. I think it's also an opportunity to push gifts towards that area if that's something the donor feels really strongly about. I know I had a matching gift challenge last year that was towards seminarian education, and so the donor felt really strongly about that, and so we were able to leverage their match to raise even more for that particular area. So yep, that's another option as well.
Yep, love it. And this is good too. This is that, back to that strategy of, you have a donor, I use tennis courts, very specific, but if you have a donor, you've been trying to move them towards something, tennis courts or an endowment or whatever it is. This is a way that you can say, I know you care deeply about, endowments or about teacher salaries or whatever it is. Let's focus this on a matching gift specifically for your core area, right? If it's somebody that, especially sometimes you have donors who are really passionate about a project that maybe the rest of the world isn't passionate about. We've all run into this. So you run the high school campaign and you have the one donor who really wants, new restrooms in the, athletic field house, and everybody else is focused on STEM. It's okay to go to that donor and say, hey, let's do a matching gift challenge and let's see if we can get your project done. If that's the scenario, I would expect that donor, though, to play a large role and help us identify names and help us, use their name and likeness and credibility to get it done. But I think, as with everything, just start with the donor. There's a question on here about AskGenius. I won't belabor the point. If you answer the poll or didn't get a chance to answer the poll for us to follow up, here's where you can go to get more information about that. Most of the folks on the line that I looked through actually are already using AskGenius. So we've moved on, Leslie, from that point where we would do webinars and we talk about this and everybody gets excited, to now we're giving webinars for our customers and providing value in other ways, which makes me really happy. But if you want to just schedule 15 minutes to learn about it, feel free to use that QR code. We're also doing a live demo next Wednesday at 11 a.m. So we typically get 15, 20 people on there. We'll walk through the platform. It's a little bit less focused on your individual nonprofit, but you can be there with others and kind of understand what the pricing is, what it looks like, how much you can expect to raise. So feel free to join us for those. Okay. No, and last chance for any questions. I know today everybody was on the webinar today. They know about a matching gift challenge. Leslie, they're like, yeah. Just give me the letters and the emails, right?
Which is fair. I get that. It's November 2nd. That's all you need at this point.
That's right. Nobody wants to start with a blank Word document, stare them in the face. They want to start from something good. So we've got you covered. We'll get it taken care of. Okay. Last call for any questions. Otherwise, our good friend Mitch, who's behind the scenes and keeps us all running on track, will work with us and we'll get this recording up on the site. We will get an email out to all of you that includes links where you can download the slides that we have here, as well as you can download the letters that we put together, email samples, phone scripts, everything else. If you have any questions, feel free to reply. My email address is on that goes out. I'll copy Leslie on anything if you have a specific question So we get a lot of feedback that way as well. So we're an open book. You can find us at AskGenius.com or PringerSolutions.com, and we would love to help you with anything you need help with. All right, Leslie, did we miss anything?
I think we got it.
All right, everybody,
40 more
go
minutes, there you go.
Yeah, go enjoy that Halloween candy that you stole from your kids. Everyone got the line here. I'll do the same. Leslie will do the same. And we'll see you on the next webinar.
Bye,
Thanks.
everybody.